Welcome back, fellow idiots. I'm Mince for Gandhi, and today we're playing more Andromeda 6. It has been so long since I played episode 1. So, what my plan originally was to play episode 1 to 5 and then be ready for when episode 6 comes out. And then it's been almost 2 years and I hadn't played anything past episode 1. So that plan went fantastic. Obviously, I'm great at planning and then doing the plan. Obviously, so yeah. So what we're gonna do is, because I've been wanting to play episode 6 for so long, but then I was like, no, I have to record it. So I'm gonna try to record these and upload them as quickly as possible because I want episode 6, and then we'll be ready for episode 7 anyway. So yeah, we're gonna continue. I remember we were romancing Cal. We had chosen Cal. I mean, all of them were great options, and our character's name was Cassie. Yes. The buzzing of the ship wakes me, giving way seconds later to the crackle of the intercom booming through the room. Rise and shine, people! Teranium is in our sights and we're set to land in approximately 1 hour. Time to get your asses to your stations. Stretching my arms above my head, I let you. Lazily blinking the sleep from my eyes. It'd taken some getting used to sleeping on a moving craft, and I could do it with another hour or two of rest. I can't read. Though rather than risk the captain's wrath, and probably Aya's too, I push myself out of bed, shivering as the cold metal floor touches my bare feet, and head to the adjoining bathroom to wash up. After my initial run-in with the crew and the rather unfriendly welcome from the captain, I'd avoided leaving my room as much as possible the past few days, content to let Riona bring me meals and just generally fuss over my well-being. The headaches I've been having since my accident hadn't quite eased off, and the potions and balms that the medic had brought me are the only thing helping me to get any sleep. After receiving my music box that first night, I had the strangest dream. A faceless entity I had no memory of had visited me in my sleep, and her voice, soft but strong, gave me a new kind of hope. Since then, nothing else had surfaced, no memories, no voices, and I'd kept the contents of that dream to myself. I had no idea who the woman is, lingering on the edge of my memories, family, friend, or something else altogether. All I know is that the sound of her voice made me feel something familiar, something safe and hopeful. I'd like to keep that feeling to myself for a little while longer. The crew has been welcoming where did I get the word first? The crew has been welcoming for the most part, but I'm still not sure exactly who I should trust, or if I should trust any of them at all. I finished washing up in the bathroom, and after deciding I can't put it off any longer, I head to the bridge. The captain had told me to stay out of his way, and I had tried my best to, but I didn't exactly love the idea of being stuck in my room while we landed the ship. After hitting my head once already this week, I really don't need a repeat. Turning one of the many corridors, silently praying I haven't lost my way again, I almost bump into a figure coming out of one of the adjacent rooms while lost in thought. A surprised sound escapes me, and moments later I realize that my hands are pressed against a solid wall of muscle, preventing myself from colliding with the figure entirely. June! June is a sweetie. Look at that smile. I might do a replay at some point against this and slowly go through all the romances. We're doing Cal this time around, despite how much of a sweet marshmallow June is. June chuckles and takes a step back, and I drop my hands awkwardly. Good morning, Cassie. Sleep well? He waits for me to regain my composure before he continues, heading toward the bridge, matching his steps with mine. I said I didn't, but yeah. It's the first night I've managed to get more than a few hours sleep. June grins, his eyes crinkling at the corners. I'm glad to hear it. The beds here aren't the most comfortable, I'm afraid. I thought you might have had a hard time adjusting. I give him a strange look. It was an odd choice of words. Adjusting? I just assumed, after finding you in the Gold District on Goldus, that you'd be used to something a little more posh. Luxury is kind of the thing in that district. You won't find anything as drab as this place there, that's for sure. Oh. I don't say any more though. That's not where the comma was. I don't say any more, though June's statement only serves to bring up even more questions. We walk in silence for a while, and although it's comfortable enough, I still find myself searching for something to say. So, are you used to being woken up by a Yame shouting through a speaker every morning? It certainly happens more often than it probably should, but I was already up. I don't sleep much. Insomnia? He slows, almost stopping completely as he gives me a thoughtful look. Something like that. His eyebrows dip and I want to ask more, but something about his tone makes it clear that I shouldn't pry any further. So, how much do you know about Teranium? Not much. Nothing. Zero. Though I get the feeling it's not the most welcoming of planets. It has its ups and downs. I'll tell you a little about it if you'd like. I nod. The prospect of learning more about this place we're visiting too good to give up. Teranium is a desert planet. The water there comes from various oases scattered across the surface, and the oases are largely controlled by the gangs and clans there. Sounds great already. The planet's government, the Council of Embers, is negligent, corrupt. I fear that will only become worse now that Zovac sits on the throne of Goldus. The Council of Embers is a cool name. I'm just gonna throw that out there. There's something dark in June's voice when he says this. Some deep-seated resentment poking its head through his calm composure. I now notice the rifle that's strapped to his back, and I wonder, with a small twinge of panic, how bad this place really is. Teranium has long been known for drugs, robotics, and arenas. That's how they make their money. We're headed to Las Vegas, the capital. It's not as savage as the smaller cities, but still, things can get wild, so be on your guard. We have a friend who owns property in the busiest sector of the city. It's strange. Where am I getting these words from? It's a great place for gathering intel and laying low. So that's what we're doing there? Gathering intel and laying low? Among other things. I'm sure you're aware of the damage to the cargo hold. We'll find the parts we need to patch it up, then scope the area for a general overview of the situation in Celiota after the coup. Oh man, I'm probably butchering all these words. Then we'll make a decision on what to do next. I mentioned the crew was in some kind of mess. What did she mean by that? June makes a strange face, as if considering exactly how much he wants me to know. It wouldn't be fair to drag you into that. The less you know, the better. I'm coming with you guys. I should know what's going on. We're under the bridge to a buzz of activity. It's clearly all hands on deck up here. Calderon and I are seated in the cockpit, the pilot flicking switches and pulling levers while the captain barks at someone through the comm he holds in his hand. An awkward laugh cackles through the receiver from the other side, and I recognize the voice instantly. I gotta tell you, there's a lot of noise down here, Cap. We'll make it through the atmosphere in one piece, but I don't expect the outer cargo walls to hold up during landing. Just make sure airlocks 3 and 4 are sealed. The hold is already shredded. Nothing we can do about it now. Aye, Captain. Rona greets us with a smile from where she's buckling herself into one of the extra chairs, and when I feel a hand on my arm, I turn back to June. One more thing before we land. Just make sure you stay with one of us at all times, okay? And the original plan was to leave me here by myself? Wouldn't want to lose you so soon after bringing you on board. I think the captain has different opinion on that. Filling in the newbie on all the lewd and lawless activities that go down in Las Vegas, are you, June? Dan's voice floats over to us from where he stands nearby, sheathing a pair of daggers into a place on his thighs. Oh, so he wasn't nearby. He was like, filling in the newbie. June folds his arm over his chest, giving Damon a hard look. I'd rather not worry Cassie with the details so soon before landing. There's nothing to worry about so long as we keep our heads down. I feel like this group isn't good at keeping our heads down. Damon grins, his eyes trailing over June lazily and a blade balanced between his fingers. Where's the fun in that? June rolls his eyes, unstrapping the rifle from his back and fixing it to the back of one of the chairs before he sits to strap himself in. I watch the thick green substance sloshing around the chamber just beneath the barrel of his rifle, wondering what it is. Yeah, can I see the gun? Don't listen to Damon, Cassie. Last time we were here, all he did was skulk around in the shadows and drink that disgusting shrimp juice they sell at the Ark. Ew. It's not shrimp, it's krill. With a little blueberry and lemon juice. Don't knock it till you try it, cowboy. Sounds revolting. June makes a disgusted face. I agree. And I have to agree that the combination doesn't sound all that appealing. I'll pass. Same. It's Damon's turn to roll his eyes, and as June settles into a seat, ending the conversation, he turns to me. He looks even more menacing than when we first met, though that may be because he's smiling at me in a way that leaves me unsure if he wants to stab me or seduce me. My eyes flicker over the bandolier across his... I just didn't. Bandolier. Oh my god. Bandolier across his chest, the knives partially concealed by his coat, and the twin daggers he keeps strapped to his thighs. I wonder ideally how he manages not to cut himself on all that steel, and I'm sure there's plenty more hidden where I can't see. Want to do a strip search? What? Stop torturing Casey, David. I don't know how it's possible, but Damon grins even wider, his head cocking to the side. His head's sort of cocked to the side here. In a moment, Trigger Happy. Cassie and I have some business to conduct. I panic, my chest seizing while my mind takes over what exactly he means by business. While I'm sure you had a conversation worthy of a perfectly pleasant brunch with Jude, I highly doubt the cowboy told you the half of what goes down on Teranium, so walk with me. I quickly realise he's not giving me a choice, and when he saunters over to a large control screen near the cockpit, I follow suit. Damon barely spares me a glance as his fingers fly over the screen, typing and scrolling through information I couldn't begin to piece together even if I wanted to. Think of Las Vegas like a giant sandbox filled with loads of corrupted grains of sand. Okay. The kind of fun you'll find there isn't exactly legal, which means that it's the best kind. Let's go. He throws me a knowing grin before his eyes snap back to the screen in front of him. Casinos, bars, arenas, strip clubs, brothels, mods, weapons, dealers, you name it, they've got it. How did I do that one without messing up, and then I've messed up some of the simplest sentences. I almost choke on air at the description of the planet, and when I part my lips to speak, no words come out. Calderon wanted to leave me in a place like that? I know what you're thinking. What kind of man is the captain to ditch a lost, lonely traveler in a place like that? Am I right? How does he keep doing that? I don't reply, but I'm sure my slack jaw and disbelieving stare tell Damon everything he wants to know. He chuckles a little, and I'm glad at least one of us is amused by the situation. That sounds dangerous? Wouldn't be fun if it wasn't. I'll bite down my tongue to keep from answering. His definition of fun is certainly an interesting one. Still, Trigger Happy over there is right. You shouldn't wander around there on your own, especially if you don't know the place. He glances at me, giving me a once-over from head to toe and pulling his lips into a tight, unimpressed line. Or, if you don't know how to take care of yourself. I can take care of myself. Damon huffs a laugh, and I swear I hear him mumble cute under his breath. I'd like to see that, newbie. In fact, I might even pay to see that, although I'm sure the cowboy would have a thing or two to say about it. I did nothing but narrow my eyes at him, to which he replies with a dark grin, as if that was the exact reaction he was hoping for. Most likely. Anyway, I'm not your babysitter, and I don't particularly care what you do or don't do while we're there, so take this just in case. He pulls a black leather sheath from the pocket of his coat and holds it towards me. On closer inspection, I notice the glint of metal and a sturdy handle. He's giving me a dagger. Apparently not one to wait around for a decision to be made. Oh my god. Damon clicks his tongue at me impatiently. Take it, you'll need it. Fuck you, I'm gonna take it. I just got, there's murder waiting for me around every corner. I'm taking it. I hesitate for a moment, wondering if he's going to stick it in my gut himself before I reach out and take it. If what I've heard of Las Vegas is true, it doesn't sound like the sort of place I should be wandering around unprotected. Exactly. Damon cocks a dark eyebrow, a gesture that makes me wonder if he's surprised I took the dagger at all. Do you know how to use it? Stick them with the pointy end? You got that right. Trying to kill yourself with it, will you? I don't need another reason for the captain to be on my back. Damon, how are things looking on your end? Calderon's deep voice cuts our conversation short, and when I turn towards the cockpit, his attention is still firmly fixed on the controls in front of him. I would question if he's noticed my presence at all, having not received so much as a glance from him, but I don't think anything escapes that man. The radar's coming up clean, no active patrols in the quadrant for the time being. Oppo has the yard clear for landing, we're good to go. Ayame? We're coming to orbit, switching autopilot off to prepare for landing. All stats are looking good despite the, well, you know. Sebastian? Would it kill you to call me Bash like everyone else? Sebastian. A sigh crackles through the receiver, followed by Bash's voice once again, bright and bold. Engines are A-OK. Let's get busy. Damon snickers beside me, shaking his head before he pushes me towards an empty chair and sits me down. Does he even hear himself? I raise my eyebrows as he straps me in, securing the belts around me in place and pulling twice to ensure they're firm. Thank him, I guess? Damon winks at me in answer, stepping away once he's happy I'm securely fixed in place. Everyone, take your seats. We're about to enter Teranium's atmosphere. The sound of metal groaning catches my attention when Damon takes the seat next to me, strapping himself in just as the ship lurches and rumbles. Leaning forward as far as my restraints will allow, the beige-orange mass of Teranium surrounds us, the vivid neon lights and unusual buildings of Nosvegia growing closer and closer as we approach our destination. When we descend the loading ramp, oh, I read that correctly. When we descend the loading ramp, the first thing that hits me is the heat. Not the balmy kind of warmth you'd find on some day, but the scorch of fiery engines and hot metal. The late afternoon sun hangs low in the sky and a metallic, oily scent lingers in the air. I wrinkle my nose at it, surveying my surroundings. I'm in a landing strip in what looks to be some kind of junkyard. Scrap metal pipes... That's not the word. Scrap metal piles up on either side of us, broken down robots, rusted old hovercrafts, outdated droids. A graveyard of poor, unwanted things. It's a relief to step onto solid ground after the past few days in space, and I toe the dirt beneath my shoe, kicking up a small cloud of dust as I do so. Following behind the group, my eyes drift idly over the piles of junk surrounding us, until my gaze falls upon a serving bot, an older model by the looks of what I can see of it, laying half buried within a pile of rusted limbs, metal arms, legs, and a torso thrown hazardly into a pyramid. I step towards it, black eyes, one cracked right down the middle, staring into mine and its mouth opening and closing slowly, like a dying goldfish. A shiver runs through me and I find myself feeling oddly sorry for the machine, left lost and alone among the skeletons of its own kind. Someone grabs my arm and yanks me aside roughly, and I see immediately what they've saved me from impaling my foot on. A piece of metal scrap lays half buried in the sand, its jagged edge poking up ominously through the dust. Be careful. Calderon gives me a hard look, his face schooled into an expression of pure annoyance. Thanks? I didn't know it was there, that's not... I mutter thanks to the captain, though I wonder why I bothered when he merely turns and keeps walking. I don't know why exactly, but he seems even more on edge on the ground than he did on the ship. I get the impression he's not too fond of the planet. I can't stop myself from scowling at his back as we walk along, the clouds of dust growing thicker around the further we get. June told me I should stay close to someone while we're here, and after hearing about the planet, I agree with him. I feel more confident that someone was. Obviously, we're going for our romance option. Hi, this is Ed Teen Mittens, and I just want to say, what the fuck did I just say? Our romance option. Alrighty then, moving on. I feel more confident as that was nobody. Calderon. I catch up to the captain, falling to step beside him, and he raises an inquisitive eyebrow at me. Are you going to give me trouble while we're here, stowaway? No, sir. Calderon hums his approval, and I swear I see the hint of a smile curve his lips. That's what I like to hear. How long am I going to get called stowaway for? We don't have to walk much further until we're greeted by a scaled lizard-like being who smiles and spreads her arms wide to welcome us. I break away from the group a little to get a better look at our host. Welcome, my friends. Oppo is so very, very happy to see you again. How come that S didn't have like repeating letters? Calderon steps forward first, a rumble of impatience hanging thick in his words. Skip the pleasantries, Oppo. We're here on business. Oppo drops her arm, surveying Calderon with an almost fearful look. I don't blame them, really. The captain is an intimidating man. Yes, of course. Do you have the parts? Right over here, Captain. He has a friendly smile, I guess. Calderon strolls over to the pile of metal Oppo indicated towards, with Damon in tow, while Aya steps forward to give Oppo a much friendlier greeting. How have things been around here, Op? She smiles up at the lizard, who towers above her and makes a non-committal kind of sound. Bad, very bad since the Chimera took over power. Oppo barely gets enough water to keep the club running now that they have control of the council. Oppo talks in third person. Every oasis on the planet is under their control. Aya's eyebrows dip, her expression shifting to one of pure horror. Zervac gave his clan control of the Council of Embers? Yes, the old councillor is executed. Many of the arena fighters have been taken from the planet, made to serve in the king's army. Oppo fears bad things are coming to all planets. June frowns and I can't help but notice Oppo shy away a little, having only just noticed he was there. I think you might be right, Oppo. The Council of Embers? I asked Bash, who's standing beside me, and he whispers back his answer. The Council of Embers are Teranium's government. Every planet has one. The Council of Eons on Talaran, the Council of Iron on Cursor, and the Council of Essence on Iron. That was supposed to. The Council of Eons on Talaran, the Council of Iron on Cursor, and the Council of Essence on Orion. There was also the Council of Pearl before Kitalfa was destroyed. All of them answer to the Crown Council on Goldus, who in turn answers to and advises the Monarch. The Monarch Zovac. Bash makes a face and I wonder if it was the wrong thing for me to say. Most would argue against this claim. The monarchy has always been passed down through the royal Pegasi family ever since its creation. Fuck. Yeah, monarchy and like just inherited power. A perfect system, as real life has definitely shown. Zovac fought his way to the throne and took it by force. He's a ruthless man, and his clan, the Chimera, are just as bad. While Jude and Aya carry on their conversation in hushed tones, I feel a hand on my back as Bash steers me towards Oppo, hailing them with a wave of his bionic hand. Oppo, I want you to meet Cassie. The Archnos. Wait, so he's an Archnos. Why did we describe him as lizard looking before? If we know what species he is. Is it species still? I don't know. Race, maybe. Their beady eyes blinking rapidly and their forked tongue darting out from behind pointed teeth. Mr. Bash has brought Oppo a new slave? Yes? No? Oppo, no, this is our new friend. They're not slaves, they're employees. Yes, employees. That's what Oppo said. I don't think Oppo is a good employer. That's employer. Bash shakes his head at the lizard, then leans in a little closer to whisper to me. I do not give Oppo slaves, just so we're clear. An ungraceful snort escapes me. Crystal. I feel a nudge on my arm, and when I turn, Oppo is beside me, teeth bared in a pointed smile. You'll come and work for Oppo, yes? Better than slumming it with the Andromeda crew. It's Andromeda, Oppo. How many times have we been over this? Oppo blinks at Bash once, and then twice, ignoring him completely as they turn back to me. A spot just opened up in Oppo's club, very popular tourist destination. Oppo will give you a good price, no need to worry. No, I don't like this conversation. Can we exit it, Bash? Come back, help me. Yes. Back off, Oppo, this one's of us. Thank you, Captain. Charon shows his way past the Archnos. Archnos is, yeah. Stand between us and blocking me from Oppo's beady eyes. His shoulder brushes against mine and the scent of clean soap clean soap and fresh linen hits my nostrils. I can't see Oppo's reaction, but I hear their reply come from Calderon's other side. Yes, Captain, at once. How much for the parts? 2,000 credits. 2,000! Calderon leans in and says something to Oppo in a harsh whisper I don't understand. I realize after a moment that he's spoken another language entirely. For you, Oppo will take 400 and Oppo's junkers will install the parts for you free of charge. What a discount. Or what did he say? Calderon leans back and crosses his arms over his chest, looking awfully pleased with himself. You go to the club while you wait. Show your new friend our hospitality here in Nos Vega. No chance. I'm staying with the ship. Come on, party pooper. The ship's in good hands, isn't it, Op? Yes. Oppo will take good care of it. Karen looks unconvinced, though he heaves a sigh despite his hesitation. And Aya gives him an excited clap on the back before she turns to me. We are going to have so much fun. The streets of Las Vegas are a minefield of neon lights, tiny shop fronts and stalls, and all manner of creatures roaming the city. It doesn't take us long to reach our destination, stopping outside a large, odd-shaped building with a fluorescent sign on the front reading The Ark. The bar we enter is crowded, overflowing with humans, Kitalfins, Archnos, and some species I've never seen before. Okay. The crowd in here is so diverse, so colourful and unique that I can't help but let my eyes wander. A small group of Arcanauts hides away in a corner to the back, low hisses and chirps the only thing to be heard among their heated discussion. Waiters hurry through the crowd, dressed in tight dark outfit. Most look human with varying degrees of bionic alterations. Synthetic limbs, cybernetic enhancement, some of them even look more animal than human. A couple of Catalfins stand out among the crowd, their gills shimmering brightly with some sort of pearlescent substance. I'm not sure I can see myself sporting glitter on my gills, but it's definitely a statement look. It doesn't take long to realize there are no Talari though, and I wonder why that is. This feels like the kind of place someone would come to escape, to disappear in a crowd, lose yourself for a night, or even forever. I wonder if the crew feels the same, if there are things, places, people that they too would wish to escape. The Ark is most definitely a world of its own, and I wonder how deeply it would drag me down the rabbit hole if I let it. I'm not sure. It's a lot to take in, the lights, the crowd, the noise. At the same time, this could be exactly what I need after spending the last few days cooped up on a ship, and not remembering who the fuck I am. I wouldn't mind exploring a little to find out more about the place. My eyes light to Calderon, who turns up his nose at the atmosphere, large arms folded across his chest. I'm not surprised to find that he has a certain distaste for the club, though I'm relieved that the captain's capable of detesting something other than me. As if he could hear my thoughts, Calderon's eyes fall upon me, and I try my best not to shrink under his icy stare as I look away, a small smile tugging at my lips. The captain could do with some loosening up, though I'm not sure this is the way to do it. More than a few eyes watched as we enter, sizing up the newest patrons of the club. Most seem to know the crew, and while some are friendly, offering greetings or simply the nod of their head, others are not so much. The crew don't seem to mind the odd unfriendly glare they receive, either ignoring it completely or in some cases giving it back just as rough. Don't wander too far. It's safe enough in the club, but don't leave this place on your own. I wasn't planning to. Is it safe in the club if Opera comes back? Because I don't think it is. Calderon gives me a hard look before he heads towards the bar, and I resist the urge to roll my eyes at him. I notice as he walks away that my eyes have lingered on him for far too long, and I quickly drop my gaze and look away. Damon grins at me knowingly, nudging past me to join the captain. Well, that's not well. We'll meet you back here in a couple of hours. Ayami flashes a smile, skipping towards a curtain near the back of the room. When she pushes it to the side, I see a glimpse of a stage so long it almost looks like a catwalk. Dream lets out a weary sigh from beside me before striding off to catch up to the pilot. Don't get in too much trouble. Bash grins and I watch as he heads to a separate room off to the side of the building, Riona hot on his heels. I peek through the door a little before the curtain floats back to place after them, catching a glimpse of felt-lined tables and plastic chips of differing colours. Deciding I'd like to learn more about the crew and my future with it, I push my way through the crowd and find myself at the bar. Here's our little stowaway. Damon grins at me, wide and wolfish, leaning sideways against the bar. What'll it be, newbie? I don't really like... Oh, I could get his horrible drink. A cocktail. I don't know. Damon chuckles at the request before signaling the bartender, ordering our drinks and then mumbling to himself, why am I not surprised? You didn't give me any good options. Whiskey, man. Don't you two have anywhere else to go? Oh, I'm sorry, Commander. Are we disturbing you and your bar stool of solitude? Don't call me that. Damon grins and immediately I know he's hit Calderon exactly where he wanted to. But it's such a good title. Calderon tenses, shoulders tight as Damon turns to me. You see, our dear captain here was a commander in Osana's Guard. Osana's Guard? To my surprise, Calderon is the one who answers. They're the law here in the system. Their base is on Goldus. Something about the way he says this intrigues me. There's a kind of loathing in his eyes, a bit of disdain. Why did you leave? I didn't have a choice. I want to ask more, but he doesn't seem to want to talk about it. I try a different question instead. Did you know the royal family? No, I was stationed in the city, the Bronze District mostly. That's where they hide the street rats of Siltavi? Stick them in factories and work until they bleed. Calderon gives Damon a look, though the latter only shrugs and takes a long drink from his glass. What, I can't get the newbie here a little background on the planet we snatched her from? Calderon makes an unimpressed sound, a kind of growl in the back of his throat, and Damon turns back to me, arms folded over his chest. Let's see if we can hotwire that brain of yours with a bit of info, shall we? Silta V has 3 districts. Gold, home of luxury items, jewels, high-end tech and fashion couture. Think of all the pompous, hoity-toity assholes you've ever met and chances are that's where they're from. Alright, this is just a glance at Calderon and I think David notices by the knowing glint in his eyes. Silver, technology and trade, all transport to and from the capital goes through this district and is closely monitored by the guard. And bronze, factories, power plants and steelworks, the dregs of Goldus and where they assign only the fiercest of the guard. Damon shoots a quick look at Calderon before whispering to me, "In my opinion, I think that's where they station the soldiers they want to punish." His lips quirk and my own follow suit. Calderon appears to be pretending not to have heard him. All citizens of the capital work and live in these districts for the glory of Goldus, as they say. Bunch of bullshit if you ask me. Definitely sounds like it. He raised an eyebrow, scanning my face for something only he knows. Does any of this strike a chord with you? Nope. None of this sounds familiar. Maybe I'm not from Goldus after all? God forbid you end up being from Cursor. My planet breeds warriors, I'll have you know. Oh yeah, what happened to you then? Damon grins wolfishly, his steady gaze sizing up the captain in a way that has him narrowing his eyes into thin slits of blue. Come closer and I'll tell you. Calderon rolls his eyes, clearing his throat for good measure. Last I heard you detest your planet, why defend it now? You want to talk about detesting planets? You look pretty content to sit on your ass instead of trying to find a way back to yours. Mums must be so worried about their precious golden boy, and let's not forget that. Watch your mouth. Oh what, Cal? The mood around us grows thick, tension hanging heavy in the air. I must decide to head off and find someone else, leaving the two of them to the argument until Calderon lets out a heavy sigh. I don't want to talk about it. Damon bangs a fist on the bar in front of him. Ow! As the first time I've seen him genuinely angry, I hit the edge of my glass desk. Aren't you the one who was telling me to talk about this shit? We have more important things to worry about. The fact that Calderon hasn't fully snapped at Damon surprises me, and I wonder about the nature of their relationship. Fine, suit yourself. They turn away from each other, both of their shoulders tense. I want to say something, but before I can find the words, I notice Damon staring at me, freezing me in place with that cold, cold stare. Let's talk about something else, shall we? Or rather, someone else. A sense of foreboding settles in my stomach. I'm not sure I like the way Damon grins when he says that. Looks like we have a dilemma on our hands. What exactly are we going to do with you, newbie? The captain rolls his eyes and clears his throat, cutting to the chase. What he means is that we don't do charity. You can't stay on the Andromeda Six if you're going to be just another mouth to feed. Which means you gotta work. That sounds fine. Damon looks me up and down and I swallow thickly. What kind of work? That's irrelevant. You just need to choose who you'd rather answer to. I can choose anyone? No, the crew already has enough on their hands. They don't need any added burdens. I know my eyes at him. His choice of words is poor, but in a way I understand what he means. I don't want to be a burden. Pulling my own weight in exchange for food and accommodation sounds fair enough to me. So it's either me or Damon, stowaway. I'm the captain and he's second in command. It's only fair that responsibility falls on one of us. Go ahead and choose, newbie, me or Cal. Calderon growls a little at the nickname, but lets it slide for the time being. Calderon, obviously, we're romancing him. It seems on first thought like the safer choice, though by the way Calderon's forehead dips as he seconds tick on, I'm a little less sure about that. Despite his stony exterior, I'm intrigued by him. I don't think I'll regret getting to spend more time together. I choose the captain. Too late to back out now. Whatever. Less trouble for me. Damon stands, tossing back the contents of his glass before he stands to leave. He stops for a moment, long enough to look over his shoulder and call out to me. Though by the way you've been gawking at our dear captain all day, I can't say I'm surprised. Trying to follow Calderon's lead, I act like I haven't heard him, but something in me tells me he's not buying it. Good luck, Cassie. When I turn back to Captain, it's to find him staring down the neck of his bottle, a faraway look in his eyes. I take advantage of the silence to ask the one question that's been burning in the back of my mind. What did you mean when you said you had no choice but to leave Goldus? You sure ask a lot of questions. That was only one. His gaze falls on me, impatience written all over his face, and I swallow thickly. I'm just trying to learn more about you? Karen raises an eyebrow at me, taken aback by my boldness. Is that a scar there? Why? Because I don't think you're as much of a hard ass as you let on. He turns back to the bar, and for a moment I think he's going to say anything. He isn't going to say anything until finally he speaks, almost too quietly to hear over the static of the crowd around us. I was exiled. 3 words, that's all it takes to bring down that mask of hostility and hardness, replacing it instead of despair. What happened? Is it Jess? Zovak? That's what bloody happened? I don't know how his first name, how to say it. Is that why you were in Goldus that day? For Zovak? Look, kid, there are many things I left behind on my home planet. Many things I thought were worth returning for, and none of them I want to speak about with you. Why are you calling me kid? I don't like that nickname. I stepped back a little, taken aback by the fire in his eyes, yet a rage written on his handsome face. Sorry to have bothered you. I turn away from the bar, stopping only when a hand on my arm stops me in my tracks. Wait. What is he? I'm sorry, it's not your fault. None of it is. I don't know what happened to you, but if you ever need to talk to someone who's not them. I nod my head, to no one in particular, but the tilt of his lips tell me he knows who I'm talking about. You know where to find me. Carol looks me over, eyes shifting from surprise to amused in the mere instant. You continue to surprise me, you know that? What did I do that's surprising? I can't help but return his smile, feeling like I've chipped away at that ice-cold wall of his, if only a little. Calderon sighs, but the loosening of his shoulders, I can tell that he's relaxing a little more. I saw my drink a little, lost in thought and enjoying the comfortable silence that settled between us. What did you say to Oppo earlier? I reminded them of all the times we bailed them out with the local gangs around here. Oppo has a penchant for trouble. I know they don't mean it, but it finds them nonetheless. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you kind of like them. They're useful for obtaining things that aren't exactly legal. That language you spoke to them. Arknos? How did you learn it? I had an expensive education. My mother's wanted a good life for me. I was tutored not only in the common languages of our system, but also those of our neighbours. They wanted me to be a council member to change the lives of people throughout the system. I think I damn near broke their hearts when I joined the guard. Calderon's mouth pulls into a tight line and it takes all I have not to reach out and lay a hand on his arm. Where are they now? They're back on Goldus. I haven't seen them in a long time. He looks at me for a moment, a strange emotion I can't pinpoint in his eyes. I'm sorry, I'm boring you with all this talk. You should go and have fun. Okay, so we have to obviously choose one of the flirt options. I am having fun. Believe it or not, but I'm having fun where I am. Calderon raises an eyebrow as though he doesn't quite believe me, and I get the impression it's not something he's used to hearing. You sure you didn't hit your head again? Unless I fell out of bed and bumped it while I was sleeping, I don't think so. He huffs a laugh and the deep sound echoing around me. Maybe it's dangerous for you to be sleeping alone. I mean, I didn't mean it like that. I can't help but chuckle a little, watching as he eventually does the same. A pang of sadness hits me for this man who is so guarded, so serious. If I can stop myself, my hand instinctively rests on his arm, feeling the strength of corded muscle beneath his uniform. Karen looks at my hand curiously, but he doesn't stop me, and when his eyes meet mine again, I swear they're softer somehow. I don't know what that means. What does it mean that his eyes are softer? He parts his lips to speak, but obviously thinks better of it, dropping his head and giving me a sheepish grin. There's something we should talk about. His declaration catches me a little off guard after the previous conversation, but I steady myself enough to look at him curiously. What's that? If you're going to be staying with us on the A6, there's a couple of things we need to get straight. He rolls his shoulders before he speaks, hand clenching and unclenching on the bar in front of him. First, like I said before, this isn't a free ride. You'll be expected to do your bit within the crew. Second, and I want you to listen to me very carefully, because I'm going to be honest with you. Karen looks around the club before he lowers his head, leaning towards me. The crew has wound up on the hit list of some very, very bad people. Being one of us implicates you too. I can't promise you this job will be easy, but you will have a place on the ship, and if by some miracle you remember anything about where you're from, we can help you get there. He straightens up at once, giving me a hard look. Are you sure you want to be part of that? Yeah, I don't really have any other options, except staying here, and I don't want to do that. Oppo scares me. I'm sure, while I haven't known the crew long, I feel like this is where I should be. For now, at least. Calderon nods, and I get the strange feeling that my ancestors pleased him somehow. Now that that's settled, what do you know about mercenaries? I give him a disbelieving snort for an off-biased question. Mercenaries? You mean hitmen who use other people's misfortune for their own personal gain? Calderon doesn't say anything, but when I notice the clench of his jaw, something clicks. That's what you all are. Mercenaries? If you're good at something, people pay you to do it, and I don't know about you, but I don't see many honourable establishments willing to hire a pack of misfits like us. You got a problem with that? There's the door. He turns back to his drink, taking a long sip and resting his large forearms on the bar in front of him. All I've ever known of mercenaries have been tainted with preconceptions, hard guns, no better than space pirates, whose mercilessness knows no bounds. Calderon and even Damon fit that bill well enough, but when I think of the others, June and Riona especially, I can't help but wonder if they're not all that Calderon is making them out to be. I don't have a problem, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, that's all. He grimaces in understanding, tossing back the contents of his drink and tapping the bottle against the counter, glancing at my now empty glass. You want another? Sure. I must chuckle at the flush on his face as he signals the bartender, grumbling to himself when he fails to get their attention. I get the impression that he doesn't get the chance to relax nearly as much as he should. While he shifts aside a terrified kid who looks much too young to be in a place like this, I relax on the bar stool, taking in the scene around me. Hey pretty one, let me buy you a drink? Who is this? My attention shifts to the man who's sidled up beside me, far too close for comfort. He's human by the looks of things, though 2/3 of his face and both arms have been replaced by bionics, and his voice has a strange metallic echo to it. His eyes focus on me, both of them glowing an eerie neon green, and takes me a few moments to compose myself and wave a hand in front of me. No thank you. I barely turned away when a cold metal hand grabs my arm and almost yanks me completely off my seat. I let out a yelp, surprised by the sudden heat of his breath on the side of my face. I wasn't giving you a choice. No one says no to me around here. How about you back the hell off before I fritz that tin can you call a face? That's a good one. I fritz that tin can you call a face. I like that insult. The rumbling growl of an extremely pissed off captain resounds from beside me, and the man's grip on me loosens before disappearing completely. Apologies, Captain Lynch. I had no idea this one was taken. Sure you didn't. It's only when the man leaves that Calderon removes his fingers from the blaster hanging at his side. I leave you for 1 second and already the hounds are at the door. What the I didn't do anything. I can't help myself from teasing him in an attempt to lighten the mood. Jealous? You wish, stowaway. I'm sorry, but you'll have to find a new nickname, Captain. I'm an official part of the crew now, don't you remember? How could I forget? Yeah, you're stuck with me. Just don't make me regret my choice. You're probably going to. Thanks for saving me. It's hard to tell under the fluorescent lights of the bar, but I swear the captain's face blushes a deep shade of red. Don't mention it. I'm going to go and look around. I slide off my bar stool and let you feel a firm grip wrap around my arm before I take a step further. Unlike the grasp of the tin-faced man earlier, this one feels a lot less hostile. Just be careful, don't wander away from the club on your own. I lay a hand on his, giving him a smile. I'll be fine, Captain. See you later, stowaway. Is that just my nickname forever now? Turning away from the bar, I'm drawn to the shouts floating my way from the room at the back of the club, followed by a round of loud cheers. I make my way through the crowd, sailing around a dark and dodgy looking dance floor before I push aside the curtains to the back room and freeze. Aya, please come down from there, you're going to break something. Lighten up, will you? The only thing I'm breaking is hearts. What is... Surveying the scene in front of me, it doesn't take long for realization to dawn, and with it the shock of what exactly is going on. Hidden at the back of the club behind a dirty red curtain and a crowd of sleazy patrons is a strip club. I would say that I'm surprised, but after meeting the opera earlier, I'm really not. Is she in a bubble? Yeah, she's in a bubble too. I joined Jim beside the stage, distracting him from trying to coax Aya down from it for a mere moment when I crossed my arms over my chest and gave him a pointed look. I didn't take you for the strip club type? I figured this was your kind of scene, if you know what I mean. I know perfectly well, but it's complicated. I'm not judging you, to each their own. No, but A small smile tugs at my lip and June chuckles, realizing I'm only teasing him. Oh yeah, make it rain, Poppy! What is that? Sai and June nods towards the stage. As I'm sure you can tell, Aya likes dancing. When I turn to the stage, it all starts to make sense. The one getting all these cheers from the crowd is Ayame. It's so much fun. Grandpa June down there is just trying to kill my vibe. Aya laughs and hooks an ankle around the pole, spinning around so many times I feel dizzy just watching her. I'm not trying to kill your vibe, I'm just worried about you. June rolls his eyes, exasperated, his voice almost lost among the noise surrounding us. Chillax, Daddy. How about you loosen up before you end up with a stick in your ass the size of the captain's? The eyes lock on each other, unflinching, interrupted only when Ayame twirls around the pole, her face appearing a mere moment later to continue the glaring match. I wring my hands in front of me awkwardly, thinking this is probably a good time to intervene and defuse the situation. I gave Aya, she's allowed to do what she wants. June, Aya's right. Haha, told you. And here I thought you were the sane one. Cassie, whatever. She is. Now get lost, Grandpa. Promise I won't get us in much trouble. If Cal asks, we're sitting quietly in the back and behaving ourselves. Got it? June throws his hands up in exasperation, grumbling to himself as he turns and walks towards an empty seat in the back. Though no one said a little trouble wouldn't hurt. AKs, Cassie? You're crazy, you know that, right? Yeah, but you like me that way. Says who? Says you. And hey, you sided with me willingly. That I did. It just seemed like she was having too much fun to try and stop her. And honestly, I don't think she would have stopped even if we begged her to. Ayame doesn't seem like the kind of person to just roll over and take anyone's orders. With a crystalline laugh, Aya twirls around the pole, stretching her leg until she lands in a perfect split, making the crowd around us hoot and yell. How do we even do that? I guess we don't choose the floating options for ones we're not. I don't know if we choose like floating options for ones we're not romancing, if we'll like lock ourselves in accidentally, and I don't want to do that. How's that even possible? Like, how do you even do that? It's not that hard, it just takes practice. I'm sure you could do it if you wanted to. Everyone could. Well, maybe not June, he's too uptight for this much fun. He was just worried about you. I know. There's nothing wrong with going wild every now and then. We've all been through a lot, you know? It's still carrying a certain amount of baggage. You just don't become a mercenary for no good reason. She seems to act very carefree about it all and doesn't seem to mind my questions as much as some of the others. Taking her eyes with me, she pulls herself up and flips upside down on the pole, somehow holding herself up with just her legs. A woman next to me chokes on her drink when Aya winks our way. I'm pretty sure it was meant for me, but whatever gets you through the night, I suppose. Sliding slowly down the pole, she flips back up, cocking her head at me. What could possibly be going through your mind to make your brain tick so damn loud, even in this crowded room? How did you end up being on the Andromeda Six? You seem like too much of a free spirit to be tied down to a crew. What made you join them? Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? Aya chuckles at my question and slowly slows down her dancing, eyes drifting to the distance. You don't have to tell me, of course. Oh, I know, it's just been a while since anyone's asked. The crew never did? Some of them know, but it's like all of us have shitty pasts of some sort, so it's just... Shrugging, she cocks her head at me, an unreadable expression on her face. There's not much to tell really, but how well do you know Kiltelfa? I want the short explanation. I'm also a Kitelfin or whatever they're called, yeah? I know a little about it, being a Kitel fan. And all makes it almost instinctive. It was almost fully covered in water and went supernova a few years ago, right? Pretty much, yep. It was all wet and dandy until it wasn't. Those stupid cocky idiots thought it would be okay to push an unknown substance without the proper research, to abide by that dumb king's request. For what? For nothing. Something bad happened and I can't help the twinge of guilt in my stomach as I ask her what. Aya, what happened? She doesn't answer me right off the bat, staring into the distance while letting her body spin around the pole. It doesn't even feel like we're in the middle of a crowded room anymore. My heart aches in pain, I imagine, doesn't even come close to hers. That part of me that will always be connected to the Telfin homeland, already anticipating the weight of her next words. The world seems to slow down around us when she talks again, painfully so. Our oceans boiled, sea life died, the kids who refused to move back to land died there, earthquakes ravaged everything and temperature rose to ridiculous levels. We were dying of heat stroke, landslides, drowning, hunger. People killed each other. Cassie, it was chaos. Pride tossed aside, our leaders sought out help, and yet no one bothered to help us. Closed doors and backhanded offers is all we got. And it was their fucking fault. If humans had never discovered that substance in the mines, if they hadn't paid the Catalfins to run tests on it, if the Talari hadn't shut their damn doors on us, then maybe. I have no idea what to say. Emma's knuckles are white from how tight she holds the pole, eyes cast to the side, brimming with unshed tears. I know there's nothing I can do, it kills me, but all I can hope is that she'll get better, that I can be there for her when she needs me to. But still, my heart aches for her. I wish I could do something to help, anything. How else am I supposed to react to that? And the fact that I can't even remember what happened to my own people? Words of apology flow from my lips before I can even make sense of the storm of feelings inside me. I'm sorry. Her eyes dart back to mine at my words. Confusion sprawled across her features. You have absolutely nothing to apologize for, Cassie. Why am I getting tongue-tied? If anything, I'm the one who should say sorry for going overboard with the details. I just meant to tell you a bit about Catalfa and me, and well, sorry. Calderon does say I tend to get touchy with the topic, but I hate to tell him he's right. The fallen look in her eyes hurts me. I don't think she got touchy with it. Aya, it's not an easy subject. I understand why you got emotional. You shouldn't blame yourself. Thanks. I mean, I know that, but most of the Catalfins don't get like this anymore. It's been a while. It makes no sense to dwell on the past so much. Would you rather forget about it? Aya takes the time to answer. I can almost see the conflicting thoughts running through her head. I don't know. With a sad smile, I get the feeling it's best to leave this topic at that for now. My own memory loss might make me get touchy and emotional over that. I am sorry, but don't tell him I lost her, okay? It seems like she's about to turn around and go back to dancing, but I can't let her go without saying something. The weight of her words still sit heavy on my chest, suffocating me. You don't have to apologize either. If you ever need someone to loosen up with, count me in. I know. Thanks, Cassie. I've said that name a few different ways, I think. But Aya, how did you survive? Now that's a cool story, but I'm afraid we'll have to save it for another time. Aya winks at me before turning back around to keep dancing, calling out to me over her shoulder. Can't really spill my tea in such a crowded room, can I? And with that, she turns back around, jumping on that pole like a second nature. I don't confuse that's back and keep watching as she twirls around, having the time of her life. That is until her face shifts to sheer anger and she stops dancing and starts yelling at someone in front of the stage. Hey, no touching, asshole! Before I even figure out what's happened, a warm hand lays on my shoulder. I'd advise you to go somewhere else now, but don't worry, you can leave that to me. You don't want to be in the way when Oyama gets mad, trust me. Staring at his earnest smile, I can't help but believe him. Aya's a feisty little thing. I do feel sorry for whoever dared messing with her just now. Waving my goodbye to June, I turn around to continue exploring the club while he pushes his way through the crowd toward Aya. There's only one place in the club I haven't been, and I'm curious to find out how Bash and Rona are amusing themselves. Okay, so I just learned about my species history, and damn, a planet doesn't exist anymore. Okay. Sidling around the dance floor once more, I almost make it to the curtain separating the final room from the rest of the club when I feel a sharp pointed nail tap me on the shoulder. Oh no. When I turn, it's to find Oppo, looking nothing short of delighted that they found me. They offer a strange half-bound greeting. Hi. Miss Cassie, how do you enjoy Oppo's club? It's the finest in Las Vegas, yes? Oppo blinks at me a couple of times, leaning forward while they wait for an answer. Oh, it's great, Oppo. I've never seen anything like it. Oppo smiles, apparently happy with the answer as they clasp their hands in front of them and peer at me through wide yellow eyes. Oppo is curious how you met Mr. Bash and the astrologer crew. Tell Oppo the story? Yes. Oh, well, I don't feel like I should tell Oppo. Oppo seems harmless enough, but after all the warnings I've received about Las Vegas, I'm not sure I should trust them, so harmless enough, they've mentioned slaves. I met the crew in Silta V. They hired me as their new, cook. After blurting out the first thing that comes to my mind, I want to slap myself on the forehead. Cook? I'm sure the crew are perfectly capable of cooking for themselves. Cook? What is cook? You know, someone who cooks food, prepares meals for the crew? Ah, yes, Oppo knows. I let out a breath of relief. We mean employees. Cooks for Oppo. Juicy insects with crunchy legs. See? See? Oppo isn't innocent. He's dangerous. Oppo's favorite. Oppo smacks their tongue against their teeth hungrily as if I had eaten dinner. I think I might have thrown it up. And if I had eaten dinner, I think I might have thrown it up all at the thought of eating insects. I said that so weirdly. Miss Cassie met the crew in Silta V. Yes. Yes, that's right. Oppo hears rumors from the royal city. The king and his family murdered. I saw the 50. It's a dreadful deal, no matter how hated the old king was. 15 lives, an entire family gone. For one body they cannot find. The youngest princess. It's as if she just disappeared. Yes. Oppo's eyes narrow and they look at me intently. Very curious. You think the princess is still alive? Oppo thinks if she was alive, she should hide far, far away. The usurper would not live a threat to his throne. How could one recognize this princess if they saw her, that is? Oppo does not know. The youngest royal children were hidden. Always hidden. Not important to be seen. Not important at all. Oppo looks me over and for a moment I think the conversation over until suddenly I speak again. Oppo is happy Miss Cassie is here. Miss Cassie is safe in Oppo's home. Oppo smiles at me and although the pointed teeth give them a rather sinister look, I get the impression they mean what they say. Thank you, Oppo. With another half bow, Oppo ambles off into the crowd and after watching them till they disappear, I continue on my way. Heading toward the room off to the side of the club, when I push the curtain aside, I spot Bash not too far away, seated around a half-moon table covered in crimson felt. 3 other patrons are seated at the same table, a small creature with a bored look on her face and a beautiful Catalfan couple who look far too dressed for a place like this. So this is the bored patron, I'm guessing. Dealing a set of cards in front of each seat is a woman who curiously I notice has 4 arms. As I step closer to the table, I realize that while her upper arms look natural enough, the bottom are completely robotic. Much like Bash's and assist her with dealing the cards at lightning speed. As you step closer, you couldn't tell from a distance that one is robot arms. Last chance to place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Bash pushes a stack of chips further onto the table and I step up behind him, As I step up beside him, I finally notice Fiona at his side. It would be an understatement to say that the look on her face at the sight of his bet is one of pure horror. Sebastian, that amount of money would be enough to feed the entire crew for a month. What are you thinking? Bash sits back in his seat, arms folded casually over his chest and a lopsided grin on his lips. I know what I'm doing, right? This is how they draw you in, you know. You get a few wins and then the next thing you know, it's completely gone over your head and you end up losing everything. Next thing you'll be betting on the ship itself. Bash snorts at her accusation and Riona looks less than impressed by the reaction. And risk the unholy wrath of our dear old captain? Not likely. I watch the argument, if that's what it can be called, with mild amusement. It ends when Riona crosses her arms over her chest, turning slightly away from Bash and purses her lips into what I can only describe as a pout. Feeling the angry Talari for a moment, Bash leans closer to me, his voice an excited whisper. The rules are simple, my friend. If the card shows 3 crowns, you get another draw. The hourglass represents 12, that's a high card, and this one here? I stare at him, utterly perplexed, and his voice fades away into nothing. What exactly about any of this is simple? Bash studies me for a moment before giving a casual shrug of his shoulders and clearing his throat intently. Just watch what I do, you'll pick up soon enough. Rena and I share a look, but the deep bruise forming on her forehead, I'd say she's less than pleased about the situation. Yeah, okay, I'm watching. I give a nod of my head, indicating that I'm paying attention. Rona clicks her tongue, unimpressed. I wonder for a moment why she chooses to hang around if she despises gambling so much, but then assume it's to ensure that, despite what he says, Bash doesn't actually bet the ship or something equally important. The dealer flips another card and Bash's lips quirk further. It bears the image of a goblet. We've got this in the bag, Cassie. I hope you're ready to win some serious credits. Heartily shaking with excitement, Bash drums his fingers on the table, unblinking as his gaze follows the dealer's swift movements. The dealer flips the final card, 4 feathered quills. My eyes start to his face, expecting to find a triumphant smile, but instead I'm met with a look of pure horror. That was supposed to be 2 crossed swords. This young lady is the winner. The dealer gestures to the small creature at the end of the table and slides a considerable amount of chips over to her, which she chirps at happily. Now look what you've done. I told you. Bash places a hand on her arm to calm her before she can finish her sentence, and she stops abruptly. Relax a little, will you? Enjoy yourself. We have enough trouble to deal with later. It's just a bit of fun, yeah? Let me buy you a drink. I look at Riona, who seems anything but relaxed. In fact, she's been quite on edge ever since we landed on Teranium. She leans in to whisper something to Bash, and I only just catch her words over the buzz surrounding us. Don't forget what happened the last time I was on this planet. Bash fixes his eyes on Riona, both bionic and real. I'd never forget. He smiles at her for a moment, and I swear his face is softer somehow. It suddenly occurs to me how close the two of them seem, and I wonder if there's more to the relationship than meets the eye. Deciding to try and lighten the situation, I clap a hand on Bash's shoulder, squeezing it gently in a show of support. If it's any consolation, I had fun. I feel a little bad for him, but at the same time, it was fun. Well, for what it's worth, I had fun. Of course you did. Who wouldn't have fun here? Bash gives Riona a pointed look, who only huffs an impatient breath and pretends not to notice. But we should probably take a break. It's important to know when to stop, or whatever Riona says. I don't really get it, to be honest. The dealer throws us an impatient look, and Bash quickly ushers Riona and I away from the table. I don't want to see you fall into more than you can handle. Gambling can become an addiction, you know that. Bash pushes Riona and stops her with his hands on either side of her arms, giving her a more serious look. I appreciate that you worry about me, Ri. I really do, but it's just one night of letting loose and having some fun. How about you push aside that little medic voice in your head and have some fun with us? Nothing bad will happen, I promise. I get the impression that Riona is trying to resist, but the worry swiftly fades from her face, followed instead by a look of defeat. Fine, but I'm holding you to that promise. Bash grins in triumph, accepting her resignation by ruffling her hair affectionately, to which she hisses at him in annoyance. Riona gives him a pointed look before letting out a long tired sigh. You two do what you want. I'm going to go and find somewhere a little quieter to wait this all out. Okay, I'm going to keep an eye on the table, jump back in when things are picking up again. Let's go, Riona. I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed in the casino. Finding a quiet spot for Riona sounds more than appealing right now. I'm gonna go, Riona. It's a little too much in here for me. Stretching his arms over his head, Bash smiles at us. See you later then. Look after each other, alright? With a wave of goodbye, Bash starts off, most likely in the search of another table to join. Shaking my head, I turn to follow Riona as she makes her way across the room and back through the club. When we exit the club and step into the street, I can't say it's any quieter than it was inside, but at least it's easier to breathe out here. Riona turns to me, a sheepish smile tugging her lips. This place suffocates me a bit. If you want to go back in, you're welcome to. I want to spend some time with you. It doesn't matter if it's in there or out here. I glance down the street and the vendors selling their wares from wooden stalls and the various food carts sending plumes of scented smoke into the air. It's just as crowded as it was in the club, with all sorts of people rushing back and forth, and from our spot, leaning against the wall of the building, we take it all in. Riona smiles at me and I can tell she's glad I came along. I'm sorry if I seem difficult, but sometimes I feel like I don't fit in anywhere. You may not have noticed, but there aren't exactly a lot of Talari on this planet. Almost none, in fact. I've noticed. It would be hard not to, but I can't say that I understand why. I'm sensing there's more to your story than you've told me. Why did you really leave Talaran? Riona certainly holds my gaze as if deciding how much she should tell me. After a moment, she bites down her lip, her bright yellow eyes fixed on the dusty ground between us. My childhood was very strict. My father is a member of the Council of Eons, Talaran's ruling government, and my mother is the director of Setaim, the largest medical facility on the planet. As I'm sure you can imagine, these are incredibly demanding and powerful positions. Riona wrings her hands together nervously, as if waiting for some kind of reaction, but all I could do was watch how her luminescent skin wanes when she speaks, growing dimmer by the second. Wait, she glows? They didn't have much time for me when I was growing up, but I was still expected to behave as if they were always watching because, well, there was always someone watching me. I had to be the perfect daughter, dedicated, well-mannered, disciplined, but it felt like I was a prisoner. She lets a soft sigh, fixing me with a worried look. Don't get me wrong, I love my planet, but the beliefs many of the Talari have there are backwards. We used to help those who needed aid, but more often than not, travelers are being turned away and the Talari are closing themselves off from the rest of the world. She gives me a sad smile as if apologizing for saying so much. We used to be better. I wanted to be better. That's why I left. And you joined the Andromeda Six crew? Not quite. That happened a few years later. I travelled with a group of Talari called the Archangels. We went from planet to planet, offering aid where we could. But She trails off, hands shaking at her sides, as whatever memories she's been trying to ward off before now crashes over her. Her face falls in the instant. She covers her mouth with a hand, her eyes squeezed shut tight. I step forward to put a comforting hand on her shoulder, feeling her body shake with emotion. I'm so sorry. This planet brings back a lot of bad memories. I'd rather not talk about it right now if you don't mind. That's perfectly fine. I understand. Do you want to go back to the ship? If the place holds such bad memories, it may be better for her to be someone more comfortable. I can take you back to the ship if you like. Riona sniffles, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand and giving me a watery smile. I'll be alright. No need to cut the night short because of me. I appreciate the thought though. Thank you, Cassie. Riona takes a deep breath to compose herself, looking around the street, and I'm relieved to see that she's feeling better. I think I'll go and have a drink with Bash after all. I should probably apologise for being so hard on him earlier. I don't think you took it too harshly, but I'm sure he'd enjoy your company. She beams at me, her delicate features glowing under the light of the moon. We should... Before she finished her sentence, two men walked past, their eyes visibly narrowed on the pair of us. One man, a human with corded lights weaving through his skin, steps uncomfortably close and growls in Riona's face. Fuck off, Talari bitch, we don't want your kind here. The other one, a Kitalfin, spits at our feet before the two of them stroll off, shoulders pulled back and chests puffed as though they owned the very ground they tread. Oh, I can throw something? What the fuck? Yeah, throw something. Looking for around the first thing I can find. My fingers grasp around a small piece of metal scrap before I hurl it towards the man, hitting him square in the back of the shoulders. The metal lands in the dirt with a clunk and he stops in his tracks, my eyes wide and hardly believing I even had the nerve to do that. I hesitate when he storms toward me, anger descending like a black cloud on his face, and I realize I hadn't thought this plan through very well at all. He points a grubby finger at my face as he advances, his eyes reduced to two slits of eerie neon blue. You're gonna regret doing that, you little shit. That's your best insult. My heart hammers in my chest and his friend rolls up his sleeves, ready for a fight. I grit my teeth, mentally preparing myself for the blow to come until a head of pale silver hair dances in front of my vision. Riona, you better back off right now if you know it's good for you. The man lets out a bellowing laugh, staring Riona down through eyes that shine with sadistic amusement. You're in for the time of your life, lady. Is there a problem here? Yes, June. My blood runs cold at the sound of the dark rasp behind us, and when I turn, it's to find June staring the men down, his face thunderous and cold. Any glimmer of kindness is gone, replaced instead by a look I've never seen on him before, and I can't say why, but something about it terrifies me. When June moves in front of Riona and I, shielding us from the stranger and his friend, all I can see are the muscles of his back and shoulders tensing through his clothes. He almost seems bigger somehow, though I know that can't be possible. You think you can take us on, pretty boy? The man sneers at June, his lips pulled back in from straight white teeth until the Godalvin slams a hand on his friend's shoulder, pulling him back and whispering in a terrified voice. Not this one, man. He's one of them. The man gives his friend a quizzical look, eyebrows raising in annoyance. What are you? But when he looks at June next, his eyes go wide and he backs up slowly, one foot behind the other, his mouth opening and closing like a goldfish. Another second later, the two of them are scrambling down the street, almost falling over each other in their desperate attempts to disappear in the crowd. I let out a breath of relief, though when I look at Riona, her face is still twisted in an anger I've never seen from her. June stands firmly fixed to the spot, the only signs of movement the way his shoulders rise and fall with short, shallow breaths. June? I step toward him, hand outstretched, and my heart pounding in my ears. My throat tightens uncomfortably, a wave of unwarranted nausea and terror snaking through my veins. Whatever those men had seen in June had shaken them to the core, and I wasn't so sure I wanted to know why. When he finally turns, the ghost of his easy smile slides back into place, though it doesn't quite reach his eyes this time. I let out a breath I've been holding in, my shoulders slumping as relief floods through me. As I finally return... That's not it. As if finally remembering what had brought him here, June's eyebrows dip in worry. I was looking for the two of you everywhere. We need your help inside. It's a Yame. Riona throws him an alarmed look before hurrying back into the club, but before I can do the same, June stops me with a hand on my arm. Are you okay? I nod, pushing down whatever curiosity is gnawing at me to discover what had these two men so terrified of him. I'm fine, don't worry about me, June. I smile, trying to reassure him that I really am okay, and when he finally relents with a nod of his head, we head back into the club together. June heads us to a small storage room off the side of the bar, and we rush inside to find Aya seated on the stack of boxes, her arm held protectively against her stomach. She attempts to smile, but it doesn't last long until she's groaning in pain and cursing under her breath. Riona lets out a small sound and rushes to her side. What have you done to yourself now? It wasn't my fault. Some asshole was trying to grab me, so I decked him. I swear I hear Riona mumble nod again under her breath, but over the music pumping through the club, I can't be sure. Can't help her, oh my god. Can you help her, I'll go and round up the others. Yes, we'll be fine. Cassie can help me with this. June leaves the room, shutting the door behind him as he goes, and I step next to Riona waiting for instructions. And what have I told you about getting into bar fights? That I should do it only if I know I'm gonna win? Riona gives her a withering glare, and Aya lets out a guilty bubble of laughter. Oh, don't worry, it wasn't much of a fight. Did you punch a wall? Then did it seem like a good idea to punch a wall? Isn't that a good question? It did feel like punching a wall, not gonna lie. Are you going to tell us what actually happened? Aya scratches her head with her good hand, biting down the smile that threatens to take over her face. Let us say, it's generally never a good idea to punch someone who has a bionic face. Aya, what were you thinking? Aya shrugs, the silver tips of her hair falling casually around her shoulders. Did I want to shut the prick up? Aya bit back a string of curses as Riona took her hand and flipped it over to check the damage. Aya is awesome. So where's the guy now? Probably off crying in corner. Pretty sure I gave his tin can a nice dent and a kind reminder not to touch people like that. I thought June broke you guys apart. Oh, he did. I'll try. Take it easy, will you? That's what you get for throwing punches in Las Vegas. I'm sorry, okay? Riona merely raised an eyebrow at her, and Aya's smile immediately slides back in place. Sorry I didn't hit him harder, that is. An ungrateful snort escapes me, and even Riona has a hard time keeping the smile off her face. How bad is her hand, Riona? It looks like it might be broken or fractured at the very least. I'll have to run some scans to know for sure. Cassie, will you see if you can get me a bowl of ice from the bar? It will help with the swelling until we can get Aya back to the ship. Of course. I stand to head back out into the bar, stopping only when Aya calls out to me. And no stopping to ogle a certain strapping captain, you hear me? We have a medical emergency on our hands. Ha, on our hands, you get it? I roll my eyes at her joke, smirking before throwing her an obscene hand gesture to which she only laughs harder. Closing the door behind me, I leave the room. I start heading towards the bar in search of an ice bowl. I lean against the counter, immediately regretting the decision when I feel the stickiness of who knows what stuck to my sleeves. Yeah, Disgusted, I turn back around, stopping in my tracks when a glint of red catches my eye between the sea of bodies in the room. I cannot explain why, but something about that particular shade of red seems so familiar. Before I even realize what I'm doing, my feet are already weaving through the room, pushing between the dozens of people around me. Where did this bar get so crowded? Oi, watch it! Sorry. I mumble an apology, too fixated on the trail I'm on to stop now. When I get a little closer, I realize that what I've been following is a shock of red hair. The man stops at the exit, looking around a little before disappearing through the door and out into the street. My heart pumps in my chest with an urgency I can't explain, and the voice in my head whispers, "Follow him! Follow him!" over and over, so utterly relentless that I hear nothing else. I fall behind, desperately pushing my way through the last few feet of the crowd, growing hot and sweaty between so many bodies. When I finally reach the exit, I stop to catch my breath, looking up and down the crowded street for any sign of the man. I see nothing but the usual vendors and street food carts, but I know he must be around here somewhere. He couldn't have just vanished into thin air. Breathlessly, I pick a direction, letting my feet guide me until I'm standing at the mouth of a dimly lit alleyway. A single solitary streetlight casting an eerie glow over the broken furniture and old trash littering the ground. Deciding I'd rather not chance an encounter in a dingy old alleyway, I turn to head back to the club, stopping only when the noise echoes through the darkness, the sound of breaking glass. I hesitate, ears turned towards the alleyway, listening for any sign of movement. With newfound determination, I straighten up and muster my courage, taking one step and then another into the darkness. No, do not go down the alleyway. This is where you'll get shanked and die. A thought enters my mind as I put one foot in front of the other. It could be a trap, and like an idiot, I didn't tell any of the crew where I was going when I left the club. I fumbled with the leather sheath that Damon gave me earlier, buckled around my thigh, and I pull out the dagger, holding it tight in my hand. I wasn't so sure about it earlier, but I'm glad I decided to take it, knowing that if worse comes to worse, I can defend myself. Stealing my nerves, I creep through the alley toward the source of the noise, only to find it empty. I look around, peering as far through the darkness as my eyes can manage, so all I find are shadows. Was it just a rat? You shouldn't follow strangers into dark alleys. This dude who's gonna kill me has the right idea. A voice startles me from behind, cool breath skittering over my skin and sending a shiver down my spine. But I can't turn around, I can't move after feeling the brush of a cold blade against my throat. And with a dagger no bigger than a butter knife, you're not even holding it right. He leans closer still, and when he speaks again, his voice is a seductive dark rasp in my ear. Who are you, and why were you following me? I swallow thickly around the lump of fear in my throat, trying to keep my cool. My name is Casey. The man behind me sucks in a breath and spins me to face him, cutting my words short. I can't see his face clearly through the shadows, but I feel his eyes raking over me and the shock dripping from him when he takes a step back and lets out a shaky breath. It can't be. No. Princess Cassie, you're alive? I mean, Opera lets us know what was happening with that. Okay, so that is all for today. These episodes are long, but I'm enjoying them so much. I will, like I said at the start, be trying to record the rest of the game as quickly as I can, and then we'll have to wait for episode 7 whenever that comes out, which I think is soon. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Until then, embrace the chaos of everyday life as much as you can. Bye!